Well, listen, good news, first of all. I was told in Oklahoma nobody could understand my accent. I kept moving around all over the place, that I wasn't wired properly, and it was all very bad because only half the audience could figure out what I was saying. So I now have this notice I'm the only one that's got this very special Madonna mic here. It's a little bit effeminate, like a bird, you know. And I'm taking a lot of time adjusting. Well, here we all are. Thank you. You know, and I guess, you know, we've come from all corners of the United States and Canada to be here, the glorious metropolises of the Northeast and the sandy beaches of Southern California. And from that bit up in Seattle, the rocky bit at the top there, and I guess the caipirinha drinking mob from the Key West. Is that? No, I don't expect many people. I thought you'd be in Key West. That's a wild place. And of course, everybody else in the middle as well. I mean, we're all here today, and you know what? I know exactly why you're here. Just a simple phone call puts you in touch with an attorney, not a paralegal, who will provide unlimited legal advice to help protect you and your family. That's our company, and that's our product. The next phase of this was decision analysts. I'm hoping that, Jerry, if you're up there, just stand up for a second. I'll get you in a few minutes, but just can you stand up so the camera will pick you up? Let me just tell you about Jerry. Jerry Thomas works for this company, Decision Analysts. In fact, he's the CEO of Decision Analysts. And he has a number of clients. His favorite one, he tells me, is Jack Daniels. But he also does these other ones. Jerry, you can sit down for a while now because we're going to come back to you. If you can remember where he is, we'll come back to Jerry in a second. Jerry plays a very important role in what is about to happen next. I'm just trying to demonstrate to you that he's the real deal. Look at the accounts that these guys handle. Decision Analysis is the largest privately owned market research company in the USA. They work for Visa, they work for AT&T, they work for J&J, they work for Target, they work for Quaker, they work for Sears, Yahoo, and Prepaid Legal. They found out all sorts of things. I get what they call the top-line report. And I tucked Jerry's report into the back of my case. And as I often do my work in Starbucks, I waited till I got out of Ada. And the first Starbucks after Ada is at Ardmore. And I pulled over into the Starbucks at Ardmore. And I thought I ought to read the rest of this report. Because all I'd done is the piece that I needed, which was the name. But I knew there was other things in that report. So I started reading the rest of the report. And my hands started to shake. I have never, ever in the history of the world seen data like this. And if every single one of you in this room, all 10,000 of you, were a marketing manager, you would have never, ever seen data like this in your lives. I promise you this. And I'm going to share that data with you right now. First of all, look how high the numbers are in positive responses to what we sell. And I can tell you which bits people really like and which bits they like less. These are kind of positive. But let's start with the 87%. 87% of people feel excellent or good at being associated with a product that is, that talks to an attorney without worrying about high hourly costs. If you want to ring somebody's bell, I almost guarantee that if you say, talk to an attorney without worrying about high hourly costs, they'll get turned on. You understand what I mean? They'll also get turned on, can you see the 86% at the bottom, by just a simple phone call puts you in touch with an attorney, not paralegal. They like that. A simple phone call is a very good thing for them to like. They really, 84% enables you to work directly with an accomplished law firm. They like the idea that I would suggest that they're not working with Prepaid Legal, but directly with an accomplished law firm. Prepaid Legal just caused that to happen. They like the idea of unlimited legal advice to protect their home and their family. You can see how that works, a bit different. So first of all, very, very positive on the product. Let's have a look at something else. If this new service were available at a monthly price of X, how interested would you be in describing? That's what we're saying. Just look at these numbers. I can tell you precisely how many people are interested, right? Definitely will subscribe, 14%. Right? And by the way, in market research terms, almost always you use top 2 box, very seldom top box only. So now, probably would subscribe. This is now positive intent, is 14 plus 24 is 38. Let me translate that for you. If I walked out onto that street today and I pulled 10 people over, 4 want to buy this product. That's what it means. Definitely want to buy this product. You understand that? Let me go a little level down, because it gets more interesting. If I go to the next level down, which might or might not subscribe, these are people that are not negative. Below there, they're kind of negative. They may be gross negative, or they may be just slightly negative. I don't know, because I haven't just pulled that data. I'm not really interested in them, to be honest. The might or might not subscribe could be turned by direct selling, by the face-to-face. They don't know really what they don't know, and therefore by face they made. So my total scope of market is probably about 7 out of 10. 70%, not 80. A bit exaggerated, guys. I don't know if you got to the 80, but 70 is a bit, yeah. But 70 is a big number. Now, let me tell you something else. Why don't we do what normal marketing people do and say, I'm interested in the 4 out of 10? If I'm interested in the 4 out of 10, there are 226 million adults in USA, right? There is, therefore, potentially, 4 out of 10, 86 million adults in USA interested in this. If we're selling to couples, pairs, you know what I mean? Therefore, let's say that they're all in couples. So that's 43 million. So possibly maybe 40 million. Right? If I can get to 70% of those, 30 million customers. Now, listen to this. Listen to this carefully. Listen, this is really important here. 1.4 million members today. 30 million people at least want to buy it. We sit there and we try and analyze this and we try and say things like, oh, we're 1.4 million. Wouldn't we have a cracking good year if we grew 20%? That would make us 1.7 million. How about if we grew 100%? That would be 2.8 million members. I'm talking 30 million members. This is a very scalable business with phenomenal potential. Let me tell you some more things. How many of those people are interested in recommending your product to somebody else? Definitely would recommend. I never ever saw, definitely would recommend 38%. I mean, that's like a Chanel number or something. I mean, that's a huge, huge number. Probably would recommend 34%. 72% of consumers would like to recommend this product, our product, to somebody else. That's a huge number. Do you know who they'd like to recommend it to? I can tell you who they'd like to recommend it to. They're not going to recommend it to the plumber. They're not going to recommend it to the mailman. They're going to recommend it to the family or friends. In fact, you could turn the question on its head and say, do you know any of your family and friends who will be interested? You don't have to say, do you know anybody who will be interested? Just say, do you know any of your family and friends who will be interested? And that will get them there. I like the silence. You must be loving it. Let me tell you something. If you love that, you need to pay really special attention to this. Remember in the start I said, over this side, we were IKEA over this side, right, you guys? Remember the IKEA story? The flat pack? You all had it in your head? Flat pack market didn't exist, remember? IKEA came along, said, I'm going to sell flat pack, I'm going to ignore the size of the market, I'm going to create the market. You understand that? You guys over here, we talked about Starbucks. Remember, you had it in your head? We got Starbucks cappuccino market is like this. They don't care. We're going to create the market. Remember that? Watch this graph and be very, very attentive. We asked this question at the bottom. Now, the question that we're asking here is not a proper question. It's a question designed. I've asked this question a lot of times. When I was in cosmetics, you ask it a lot of times. You say, tell me about this product and tell me, is it similar to another product? And what you're really asking them to tell you is there any competition? Because if there's a competition, if I say, I've got my, I've got my noni juice, they'll say, is it similar to another product? Yeah, noni juice is very similar to this juice or this juice. You see what I mean? the power of your brand exists in whether people see it amongst competition. 61% of people said that this is unique and different. They couldn't see a competitor. %9 said there was a product very similar to this on the market by a company called Prepaid Legal. 30% said there were other companies out there, but basically we don't know who they are because you could get it through work. In other words, when we talk about competitors like Hyatt Nayrag and things like that, they don't recognize, the customer doesn't recognize it. All it recognizes is a work program. I'm in the IBM program, which gives me this, but they don't recognize the brand. In other words, we're the only brand out there. But more importantly than that, we're unique and it's seen as unique and different. Now, what am I showing you here? Try to relate now back to the IKEA thing, because this was the bit that got me shaky. This was the bit that made me have a phone call with Jerry on the way back. Said, Jerry, I'm coming in. We need to talk for about 3 or 4 hours and go through this, because there's something here. And what's there is there's people see that, you've seen how much they like it. You got that, right? They like it. They'd like to refer it. They love it. They want to buy it, they've got positive intent, and yet they can't find the product. There's an unmet need. Like flat pack furniture was an unmet need. Like cappuccino was an unmet need. Like legal services is an unmet need. This is proof positive that our intuition on the disruptive model was absolutely correct. This is a I've never seen one. I've never seen a disruptive model. I wondered how it would play out. It plays out like this. Now I can see it. And when I talked to Jerry, I'm going to ask Jerry to stand up in a second, we got to this slide, and I was in stunned silence at this point, and he said, Alan, you know what this means, don't you? And I said, it means big. And he said, it means multi-billion dollars big, Alan. That's what it means. Jerry, stand up again. Thank you. Jerry, stand up. They wanted to see you. They couldn't see you because they haven't got a lighter. Jerry, stand up again. There he is. Okay, you're done. Thank you. I mean, doesn't that make you want to go home right now? I mean, job done. You know what I mean? Well, I tell you, what a day that was. What a day. Jeez. They just don't get better than that day, I tell you. Great day, Jerry. Thank you. Really appreciate it.